First question is from Kristen. I've heard that online calculators don't work if you are self-employed. How does this change your estimated family contribution? So we're definitely going to get into the EFC a lot more in subsequent parts of tonight's live stream. But just at a very high level, what I can tell you, Kristen, is that when you're self-employed, there's a couple of pieces that change how colleges treat your family's financial situation. So the first is that obviously from your self-employment, you have certain levels of business income. And depending on the nature of whether you're an S Corp or an LLC, that's going to change how that gets passed through on your taxes. But there's an income component. And then there's a valuation component. Depending on the type of business that you have, that business could be considered an asset, like that it could have a valuation. It could not have a valuation. That's really the challenge. But the short answer is that I would say that you have to consider both the income and the asset side of the equation when you're looking at being self-employed. Next question is from Chuck. How accurate is the net price calculator? It depends. So CollegeVine's net price calculator we found to be pretty accurate just because we take into account a bunch of different variables, including both your financial aid and your scholarship and your potential merit scholarships. The individual colleges' net price calculators tend to be okay, but they tend to be more generous than the aid amount you're actually going to receive, at least in my experience. Next question is from E. Hassan. Can students apply for student loans if they are considered dependents on their parents' tax filings? Yeah, absolutely. As long as you fill out the FAFSA and submit it to colleges, you can get access to student loans. Next question is from Anakef. So should I apply for financial aid at need-aware colleges at all if I only have a slim chance of getting any aid? So honestly, if you're in a situation where you have a slim chance of getting financial aid, and in a second, I'm actually going to share some guidelines for what types of family financial situations qualify for financial aid versus which ones don't. But if you truly are in that category of having a slim chance of financial aid, then I would say it's probably not worth applying for financial aid at the need-aware colleges you're aiming for. Next question is from Starting Out. What are your chances of getting a high-level scholarship without high demonstrated need or high academic performance? Do you need both, or is one more important than the other? For financial aid, that's where you need the high demonstrated need. For merit scholarships, that's where the academic performance is going to become more important. And depending on the colleges that you're looking at, they might either give out more in terms of financial aid, that's going to be your selective private colleges, or they're going to give out more in terms of merit scholarships, that's going to be your non-selective private colleges. So academic performance is going to be more important at non-selective private colleges, and financial need, high demonstrated need, is going to be more important at selective private colleges. All right. Next question is from EWHL. How does a second child going to college affect your expected family contribution? Do investment properties such as rental houses affect financial aid? Thanks. A second child going to college is one of the biggest kind of misnomers or myths in the college process, because you might think, oh, wow, I'm paying $30K out of pocket for child number one's college education. Surely I'm going to get a break from colleges for child number two. It's not really how it works. I would say that the amount you're going to get for your second child depends, and there's some variability in it, but usually it's going to knock maybe $5 or $6 grand off of your second child's college expenses. Next question is from Lois. Divorced, father lives overseas and does not pay child support nor have much of any relationship with the child. How does this affect the FAFSA, if at all? Do I have to report any income from him? Also, if mom is over 60, does that affect aid? That's a great question, Lois. The short answer is that because the child lives with you, you don't have to really report anything for the father on the FAFSA. However, on the CSS profile, you do have to report income and finances for the father. Now, there is a way to get a waiver for that, and in your case, since the father lives overseas, you don't really have any contact with him, you can apply for a waiver from that requirement. But for the most part, in a situation where the parents are divorced, you actually still have to report the income and asset situation for both parents. Now, in terms of the mom being over 60, it does impact your aid, and the way that works is that when the FAFSA and the CSS profile calculate your income that's available, and we'll talk about how they look at that and what formula they use for that in a bit, When they calculate your income, if you're over 60, you get more of your income and your assets basically protected. There's a formula that they use to essentially protect some additional income because they know you'll need to be saving more for retirement soon. Next question is from Jane. Does it hurt your chances of getting into a prestigious university if you ask for financial aid? So the short answer is, if that university is a need-blind university, which is one of these schools right here, it's not going to really have too much of an impact. If the school is need-aware, though, then it absolutely will have an impact. All right. The next question is from Carrie. Does the CSS profile need the income for the father if the parents were never married? Yes, they still ask for that even if the parents were never married. Next question is from Hong. For the merit-based financial aid, do we need to apply separately? So it depends on the college, right? And there's really two different types of merit scholarships. One is just general merit aid that you receive from colleges. And usually for that, all you really have to do is just apply to the college and you'll automatically be considered for those scholarships. Then some schools have specific scholarship programs, right? So these are like special programs that you do a supplemental application for on campus. That you apply to separately. And these usually require additional essays, potentially an additional interview. And that is going to be a separate application that you have to fill out. Okay. Next question is from Lolita. How and when do we start financial aid applications? Is this part of the application form of each college application or it's separate? So financial aid, you apply for financial aid through a separate form. It's either the FAFSA, the CSS profile, or both. And we'll talk more about that in a bit. Okay. The last question we're going to do during this Q&A round is from Sam. We have an AGI over 400K. Do you still recommend applying for the FAFSA? I would say that usually if you've got an AGI over 400K, you're not really in great shape to get much, if any, financial aid from colleges. You're probably much more likely focused on, or you should probably focus your attention on getting merit scholarship money if you're looking to offset the cost of financial aid or of paying for college. All right, so let's get into the financial aid process. So step one in the financial aid process is to decide if you're applying for financial aid. And to the question that Sam just asked, I'll give you some guidelines as to whether you're likely to receive financial aid at all and whether you should even go through the effort of applying for financial aid. Once you decide that you are applying for financial aid, the next step is going to be to fill out the FAFSA, the CSS profile, at least if you're applying to any private colleges, and then other aid applications. These are usually tied to your state or local government, and they're going to only be for public universities in your home state. Step 3 is going to be uploading your financial aid forms uploading financial documentation so that colleges can verify the information on your FAFSA and CSS profile. And then step 4 is going to be to negotiate your aid packages. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a future live stream, but the short answer is that the first financial aid offer you receive from colleges doesn't necessarily have to be your final financial aid offer. And we'll talk at least a little bit about that later in tonight's stream.